Shape is king. That's a statement that most of us in the peripheral community are familiar with. And depending on what type of grip style you use, something that works really well for someone might not work well for you at all. Because of this, it's really hard to quantify what is the best shape for a specific grip. If you play claw, maybe the shape of the Sora or the X2 resonates with you. Paw may be something like a super light or a Beast X shape, but there isn't really one size that fits all. We have companies like Orbital trying to tackle this problem, but today we're going to be taking a deeper look into fingertip grip and mice designed specifically with fingertip and only fingertip in mind, and see if they are just a gimmick or if there really is something awesome here with these purpose-built mice. We're not going to be looking at any of the G-Wolves mice like the HTR or the HSK. We'll be looking at the zeromouse, which was developed by Optimum Tech, and the Beanmouse, which was developed by D over at Caffeinated Customs. The former was purchased myself and the latter was sent out to me, but that doesn't affect my opinion on either of these mice in any way. Both mice are not actually standalone mice and are more of a mod kit than a complete product. They both require the internals of a Viper V2 Pro. The performance is good, but I'm not going to be talking about that in this video. One thing I would recommend is if you are planning on picking either of these up, I would recommend trying to find a good deal on eBay for a used one. It's a little bit overkill to get a brand new one for this. Both of these mice have things about them that I really like and things that I don't like either. In terms of unboxing experience, the zeromouse definitely has the edge and feels like a more complete product. There's a support card, a battery sticker, a set of laser cut super grips, x-ray pad, jade, and obsidian dots, 2 sets of screwdrivers, one specifically for disassembly of the Viper V2, and the other is just a basic Phillips bit. There isn't a whole lot to talk about when it comes to the unboxing of the Beanmouse. It just came in a box with the main clicks not installed, so they don't get damaged during shipping. The build quality on both mice has been very good. Despite how they look, they are both very sturdy. This is mainly due to the brace bar, which helps deal with any side flexing. Obviously, just due to the design of the mouse, there is still a bit of fragility, and that is also in part to the material. And the exposed PCB could also be at risk to spills, but any other cheese grater mouse like a Final Meme would have that same risk. So just be careful around your desk and don't go stepping on it or throwing it at a wall, and you should be fine. I found the stock coating to be a bit better on the zeromouse than the Beanmouse, but I found both worked best for me with some grips. I definitely appreciate the laser cut super grips on the zeromouse, but they are kind of one and done, which is a little bit frustrating. And I have cicada wing grips on the Beanmouse, and I appreciate the flexibility of the different grip positions available. To talk about the shape of the mice, or in this case, the finger positioning, I would say that the Beanmouse definitely has an edge over the zeromouse. Zeromouse was built around Optimum's specific fingertip grip in mind, and there's not a lot of flexibility. My hand kind of feels locked into that specific grip, which I don't find to be super comfortable. It's not a bad grip style by any means, just something that's not quite for me. In contrast, the Beanmouse is much more accommodating when it comes to different permutations of fingertip. There's a lot of flexibility to all 5 of your fingers, and the groove on the right sidewall feels really unique and helps a lot with locking your fingers in place. One thing that I'm really not a fan of though is the side support on the thumb rest. I definitely would have preferred if it was more flat like the zeromouse is, because if you don't have the dots positioned in exactly the right spot, the mouse will lift up a bit on the right side, and this elevates the sensor too much to the point where the mouse will stop tracking. This messed me up quite a few times on certain Kovac scenarios and was really frustrating to figure out what was going on. But with a bit of trial and error, you should be able to get it into a much better state than I have it now. The battery position is one area where the zeromouse definitely has an advantage over the Beanmouse. The zeromouse has a battery holder positioned at the rear of the mouse, which shifts the center of gravity towards the back of the mouse, which definitely makes it feel lighter when you're pivoting the mouse. The Beanmouse doesn't have a battery holder, so you need to get a piece of double-sided tape to hold it in place. and with the battery being in the middle, it has the center of gravity positioned more towards the middle of the mouse, which gives it a very balanced feeling, but my raw aim definitely feels better with that center of gravity pushed towards the back. The clicks are somewhere else that, at least in the units I have, the Beanmouse takes the advantage over the zeromouse. The zeromouse has a reverse trigger design, but I found there to be an overwhelming amount of pre-travel in the clicks to the point where it was practically unusable. To combat this, I put 3 layers of aluminum tape on both the left and right click plungers, and there is still quite a bit of travel, but nowhere near the amount of how it was before I tuned it. I'm not sure if this is just an issue with my unit, but it's definitely a huge drawback from my initial experience with the mouse. The Beanmouse, on the other hand, has true zero pre-travel clicks. This is achieved by attaching the click assembly onto the crossbar brace support, which results in the plunger being directly on the mouse click. The implementation of the clicks is honestly some of the best I've felt. They're super snappy and spammable and just give a really unique feeling that I wish I could get from the zeromouse that just isn't present. The trade-off for this is that you have to glue the clicks into place, which makes teardown and assembly quite a bit of a pain to deal with. There are holes in the clicks, but they don't quite line up in my experience. But I think that the trade-off is well worth it for how good these actually feel. One thing you might have noticed is that neither of these mice have side buttons. This is to achieve that feather light weight. This makes them both extremely impractical for daily use, basically cementing them in being purpose-built for FPS games. Additionally, if you are only using them for FPS games, a lot of people I know use their side buttons for push-to-talk, so that's also something that you'll want to keep in mind if you're considering picking either of these up. Finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about the scroll wheel, neither of which I'm a big fan of. The zeromouse has its scroll wheel positioned very high, so it feels very awkward to move my finger over to it, but it's still usable. The Beanmouse, on the other hand, the scroll wheel is basically not usable in my experience. There's no support in place for the scroll wheel, so it moves around a lot, and whenever I use it, if you scroll up, it can actually just fall right out of the mouse. I think that this could be solved by adding in some sort of scroll wheel support. That would probably make a night and day difference, but as it stands now, if I'm using it, I typically just don't use the scroll wheel at all. In terms of pricing and availability, the zeromouse came in at $96 Canadian. This is without the included price of a Viper V2. My understanding is that this will no longer be being produced as a mod kit, and Optimum will be switching to including a PCB in the product. I think that's a much better user experience than what you have right now, but we'll have to see how that plays out. The Beanmouse is priced at $40 US and comes in 2 sizes, small and large, and is available in both right and left hand variations. So if price is your main factor between your decision of the two, the Beanmouse is definitely the winner, but you're not getting those laser cut grips, 2 sets of dot skates, and the assembly tools you get with the zeromouse. These 2 mice are definitely not for everyone. They have very specific use cases and are very impractical for daily use, but it's been a very unique experience overall to use, and I have had a ton of fun playing around with them. You are essentially getting pure input aiming, and I've had a blast with both of these, but I definitely don't think that either of these mice I can safely recommend for everyone. If you are really a mouse schizo and want to try something that's really unique, you should definitely take a look into it. But for me personally, I don't think this is something that I could ever truly main compared to something like my daily driver like the OP1 8K. I think that some sort of combination between these two would be my perfect for my quote-unquote perfect fingertip mouse, but both are certainly pushing boundaries, and I'm really excited to see how fingertip optimized mice continue to evolve in the future. And that brings us to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed this, please consider leaving a like and sub, as it helps support my channel a ton, and I really can't express how much I appreciate the support I've received thus far. That's gonna do it for me. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.